20 child stars who shone brightly in Hollywood then and now. They were once the faces that captivated audiences on the big screen and television. Their smiles covered the covers of famous magazines, and their names were widely mentioned across America. However, one day they suddenly disappeared from the spotlight. 30 famous child stars who once made the whole world admire them. They are familiar names associated with the golden age of Hollywood cinema. So what happened to those young talents when the camera lens stopped rolling? There are stories that make us heartbroken, and there are stories that make us feel hopeful and restore our faith in life. Do you know any of them that have captivated you? Comment the name of the child star that you love the most or remember the most. If you find this video interesting, don't forget to leave a like and hit the subscribe button to support the channel. And now a small question for you. Among your close friends, is there anyone who has ever been a die-hard fan of these child stars? If yes, comment number 1. If no, comment number 0. Bobby Driscoll was no ordinary child actor. He was the first star signed by Disney voicing Peter Pan and the face of Treasure Island. At just 12, Bobby had already won an Academy Juvenile Award for his roles in The Window and So Dear to My Heart. His future seemed limitless. But puberty brought challenges for Bobby. His chubby face began to change, acne scarred his face, and his features grew older. Walt Disney, who had once treated Bobby like a son, abruptly terminated his contract in 1953, just 3 years after he appeared in Treasure Island. Disney executives thought Bobby had become difficult to work with, but the reality was more brutal. Bobby no longer fit the image the studio wanted. Dropped by Disney and labeled a failure at just 16, he fell into a life of addiction and crime. Despite his parents' efforts to send him to rehab, nothing seemed to help. By his 20s, Bobby was heavily addicted to heroin, arrested multiple times, and gradually drifted away from the industry that once celebrated him. His life ended like a Greek tragedy. In 1968, his body was found in an abandoned building in New York. With no identification on him, he was buried in an unmarked grave on Hart Island. Nearly 2 years later, his mother reopened the case, and his identity was confirmed through fingerprint records. Bobby died at the age of 31 from heart failure caused by years of drug abuse. The boy who once soared like Peter Pan ultimately ended his life in loneliness, forgotten and unrecognized. In contrast to Bobby's tragic story, Margaret O'Brien's life took a hopeful turn. As a child, she captivated audiences with her deep emotional performances in films like Meet Me in St. Louis alongside Judy Garland. Her role as Tootie Smith earned her a special Academy Juvenile Award, and her natural ability to cry on cue made Margaret one of MGM's brightest child stars. However, by the early 1950s, her career began to slow down as she faced challenges transitioning from child roles to teenage ones, and acting opportunities became scarcer. Instead of chasing fading fame, Margaret chose to step away from the spotlight. She decided to focus on her education and personal life. She got married, focused on raising a family, and only occasionally appeared on television or stage, never trying to reclaim the stardom she once had. Today, at 87, Margaret lives a peaceful life in California. Unlike many of her peers, she managed her finances well and remains one of the few surviving child stars from Hollywood's golden age. From time to time, she attends classic film festivals where fans are delighted to see the woman whose gentle presence and warm smile have made her beloved for over 8 decades. Margaret's choice to step away from Hollywood was a voluntary, peaceful decision, a testament to a different path, one not dictated by fading fame or changing public tastes. When The Yearling premiered in 1946, Claude Jarman Jr.'s natural performance as Jodie Baxter at just 12 years old stunned both critics and audiences. His heartfelt portrayal of a boy and his fawn in rural Florida earned him a special Academy Juvenile Award and sparked hopes for a long and successful film career. However, by the early 1950s, Claude's name and face began to fade from the screen. Unlike many child stars who were pushed out of the industry, Claude made a different choice. He voluntarily stepped away from Hollywood. As a teenager, he realized that education offered a more stable future than the unpredictable world of filmmaking. After appearing in a few films, such as Intruder in the Dust, which was compelling but not commercially successful, Claude decided to return to Tennessee to finish high school with his friends instead of continuing to pursue acting. He later attended Vanderbilt University, served in the Navy, and eventually settled in San Francisco. There, Claude became the executive director of the San Francisco International Film Festival, a role he held for 15 years. Today, at age 89, Claude enjoys a fulfilling life with his family and occasionally reflects on his brief but meaningful contributions to film history. His decision to prioritize education and a normal life over fame set him apart from many of his peers who often struggled to hold on to stardom, sometimes with heartbreaking consequences. Few child stars achieved the level of global fame that Deanna Durbin did in the late 1930s and early 1940s. With her clear soprano voice and radiant beauty, she became one of Universal Studios' most profitable stars, widely credited with saving the studio from bankruptcy. Her fan club was the largest of its time, a testament to her immense popularity. At just 21, Deanna was the second highest paid woman in America, earning up to $400,000 per film second, only to Bette Davis. Yet at the height of her career, she made a stunning decision to retire from the industry entirely at the age of 27. Unlike many stars who were pushed out by shifting public tastes or aging out of their roles, Deanna chose to walk away on her own terms. She voluntarily gave up a $200 a-year contract and a career most could only dream of. In 1949, after completing For the Love of Mary, Deanna vanished from the public eye. She moved to a small village near Paris, married producer Charles David, and for the next 64 years declined nearly all interviews and every invitation to return to the spotlight. Her complete withdrawal was so profound that many young Americans today have never heard her name, despite the fact that she was once one of the biggest stars in the world. When asked about her decision, Deanna once said, "I never really felt happy in Hollywood. I couldn't live my life according to the false image that society expected." She explained that being cast forever as the eternal girl next door became suffocating. No amount of fame could make up for the loss of her privacy and true self. Deanna lived peacefully in France until her death in 2013 at the age of 91, firmly rejecting every attempt to lure her back into the spotlight. Her voluntary withdrawal remains one of the most dramatic and deliberate disappearances in Hollywood history. With his blonde hair and expressive blue eyes, Brandon DeWilde made a lasting impression in the film Hearts in Shane 1953 with the iconic line, "Shane, come back, come back." At just 11 years old, Brandon's outstanding performance earned him an Academy Award nomination, making him one of the youngest nominees ever. Unlike many child actors who struggle with transitioning to adult roles, Brandon successfully evolved through teenage roles in the film HUD, alongside Paul Newman and the TV series The Virginian. His talent promised a bright future ahead. However, in July 1972, while driving near Denver, Colorado, Brandon lost control of his car and crashed into a construction truck. At just 30 years old, his promising life ended tragically. The boy who once called out for Shane to come back never appeared on screen again. Brandon's untimely death left many mourning and wondering what he might have achieved. Critics believed he had the potential to become one of the finest actors of his generation. Though his career spanned only 17 films, Brandon's legacy remained significant. His story reminds us of the fragility of life and career, how talent and opportunity can be cut short at any moment. It's impossible to talk about child stars without mentioning Shirley Temple, the most famous little girl in Hollywood history. With her bouncy curls and charming dimples, Shirley was a beacon of hope and joy for Americans during the Great Depression. By the age of just 7, she was earning $50,000 per film, equivalent to nearly $1 million today. Beyond movies, merchandise like dolls and costumes bearing her likeness brought in millions of dollars. However, like all children, Shirley grew up and her on-screen appeal gradually faded. As she entered her teenage years, 20th Century Fox, the studio that had greatly benefited from her fame, terminated her contract when she was just 12. After a few unsuccessful teen roles and a failed audition for The Wizard of Oz, Shirley retired from acting at the age of 22. But unlike many child stars who faded into obscurity, Shirley Temple Black, her married name, enjoyed a successful second act in life. After raising her children, she entered politics, running for Congress, and later serving as a U.S. delegate to the United Nations, starting in 1969. She also served as the U.S. ambassador to Ghana and Czechoslovakia, proving her talents went far beyond the glow of childhood stardom. Rarely complaining about the collapse of her Hollywood career, she once offered this advice to aspiring actors. "I have one piece of advice for anyone who wants to be an actor: don't do it." Her later career in diplomacy demonstrated that stepping away from the spotlight doesn't mean losing the ability to contribute meaningfully to society. For many Americans growing up in the 1950s, Tommy Rettig was Jeff Miller, the boy who first owned the famous collie in the Lassie series. With his all-American looks and natural bond with the dog, Tommy became one of the most familiar and recognizable names of his era. However, Tommy soon felt suffocated by fame and the limitations it imposed. At just 14, he shocked producers by asking to be released from his Lassie contract, giving up a dream role. Life after Lassie was tough. Casting directors were reluctant to hire him as an independent actor, roles became scarce, and by the end of his teenage years, Tommy had nearly disappeared from the screen. During his adult years, Tommy faced many challenges, including an arrest for growing marijuana, which further diminished his chances of returning to acting. He moved through various jobs from farming to computer programming. Ironically, it was in this later career that he found true fulfillment, becoming a respected database programming expert and author of several programming books. Tommy passed away at the age of 54 in 1996, leaving behind the image of a life marked by multiple reinventions and transformations. Before Shirley Temple, there was Baby Peggy, one of the first child stars of the silent film era. Between 1921 and 1924, she appeared in over 150 short films and several feature films, becoming a global sensation before she even turned 6. With her boyish haircut and serious expression, Baby Peggy captivated audiences by impersonating the famous stars of her time. At the peak of her fame, she earned $1. $5 million a year, equivalent to about $23 million today, supporting her extended family and receiving over 1.7 million fan letters. But the price she paid was high. Her father, a strict and harsh manager, forced her to work 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, with no schooling, no friends, and none of the vast fortune went to her. When the little girl cried from exhaustion on set, crew members used ice to soothe her and stop the tears. By 1925, her career collapsed due to conflicts between her father and the producers, along with poor financial management. The family's fortune quickly vanished because of bad investments and reckless spending. By age 7, baby Peggy had lost her shine before most children had even started first grade. Her family fell into poverty, forcing her back into vaudeville and grueling tours until the Great Depression ended that source of income. As a teenager, she changed her name to Diana Sarah Carey to escape the shadow of baby Peggy. Diana lived a normal life, grappling with the reality of her exploited childhood. It wasn't until she was in her 70s that historians began to recognize her significance, and she started speaking out about the exploitation of child actors in early Hollywood. She passed away in 2020 at the age of 101, the last surviving star of the silent film era. In her later years, she became an author and an advocate for the rights of child actors, turning her painful experiences into a driving force for positive change in the entertainment industry. With his tilted baseball cap and mischievous smile, Scotty Beckett won the hearts of audiences as Little Rascals in the Our Gang comedy series. He quickly transitioned to feature films playing young versions of stars like Frederick March and Spencer Tracy, and even portrayed a young Al Jolson in The Jolson Story. Scotty's early career went smoothly as he worked steadily through the 1930s and 1940s, avoiding the sudden unemployment that many child actors faced. Even as a teenager, he had a recurring role in the TV series Rocky Jones' Space Ranger, raising hopes that he would successfully make the leap to adult roles. However, behind the cheerful on-screen image lay deep struggles. The death of his father, when Scotty was just 14, sent him into an irreversible emotional crisis. By the end of his teenage years, he began self-destructive behaviors, alcoholism, drug abuse, and public incidents. Scotty's career and life spiraled downward throughout the 1950s, multiple failed marriages, arrests for drunk driving, check fraud, and more. His reputation was completely destroyed, and by the late 1950s, he was out of work in Hollywood. The final chapter of Scotty's life is a tragic one. In May 1968, after a severe beating, he was admitted to a nursing home and was found dead 2 days later at age 38 from an overdose of sedatives. The official cause was suspected to be suicide, but many mysteries remain unresolved. The image of the adorable boy with the tilted cap who once captivated audiences became a troubled, lonely man who ended his life in darkness, illustrating the tragedy of early fame and the losses within Hollywood. Scotty's story is a powerful reminder of the dark side of the spotlight. If this moved, you please share this video so more people can understand the truth behind Hollywood's glittering facade. Don't forget to leave a comment below sharing your thoughts on the fate of stars who rise to fame too early. And if you want to continue exploring untold stories from the world of cinema, be sure to follow the channel so you won't miss the next videos. In the 1930s, no child star surpassed the talent and charm of Freddie Bartholomew. With his English accent and versatile acting skills, he was regarded by MGM as Fox's Shirley Temple, starring in literary adaptations such as David Copperfield, Little Lord Fauntleroy, and Captains Courageous. At his peak, Freddie earned $2,500 a week, an enormous income during the Great Depression. He embodied the image of the polite English schoolboy, though his childhood was far from easy. Born into a poor London family, he was adopted by his aunt, who brought him to the United States to pursue his career. However, once famous, his biological parents returned, leading to custody battles and disputes over his earnings, which resulted in Freddie losing most of his fortune to legal fees. By his teenage years, changes in his appearance and shifting audience preferences led MGM to let Freddie go when his contract expired at age 14. Unlike many other child stars, Freddie accepted the decline of his career with calmness and grace. After serving in the Air Force during World War II, he reinvented himself and entered the field of television advertising. Starting as a sales representative, he eventually rose to become a well-known advertising executive and director in New York. Freddie rarely spoke about his acting career as an adult, preferring to be recognized for his achievements in advertising rather than his famous childhood. When he passed away in 1992, many of his colleagues in the advertising industry only then learned he had once been a celebrated child star. His story stands as a shining example of a successful and graceful transformation under pressure, something few child stars manage to achieve. Jackie Coogan is considered Hollywood's first child star. At just 7 years old, Charlie Chaplin discovered his talent in vaudeville and chose him as a co-star in The Kid 1921. Jackie's emotionally powerful performance as an abandoned child taken in by Chaplin's character instantly made him famous. Jackie's popularity exploded rapidly. His image and signature bob hairstyle became a nationwide trend across America. And by the time he was 10, Jackie had earned about $4 million, equivalent to around $60 million today. However, when he turned 21, Jackie discovered that his parents and stepfather had spent nearly all of his fortune on a lavish lifestyle. Out of the millions he earned, he was left with only $126,000. His legal battle against his mother became major news and led to the passage of the Coogan Law 1939, which requires a portion of a child actor's earnings to be set aside in a trust to protect them. Although Jackie continued acting as an adult, he never regained the fame he had as a child. Later audiences mostly recognized him for his role as Uncle Fester in the 1960s TV series The Addams Family. Jackie's greatest legacy wasn't his later acting career, but his role in protecting the rights of future generations of child actors. With expressive eyes and a genuine style, Beverly Washburn was one of the most sought-after child actresses of the 1950s. Although not as famous as some of her peers, she frequently appeared on television shows like The Lone Ranger Dragnet and Leave It to Beaver. In film, Beverly appeared in well-known movies such as Shane and Old Yeller. Her natural and convincing ability to cry made her a frequent choice for emotionally demanding roles. She worked steadily throughout her childhood and teenage years, a rare feat at a time when many child actors struggled to transition into adult roles. Without falling into tragedy or dazzling fame, Beverly made a steady transition and continued acting in television and film into the 1970s. As her career gradually took a backseat, she chose family life, occasionally attending fan conventions and writing a memoir about Hollywood's golden era. At 81, Beverly lives peacefully in Las Vegas and remains beloved by audiences for her classic roles. Her memoir, Real Tears, offers a realistic and gentle perspective on the life and career of a child actor without drama or glamour, serving as a symbol of a balanced and enduring artistic journey. June Lockhart began her acting career at age 13 with a role in A Christmas Carol, 1938. Born into a family with a strong artistic tradition, both of her parents were actors. This early start laid the foundation for a long and memorable journey in entertainment. With talent and determination, she overcame many challenges faced by child stars of her era, establishing herself through a wide range of roles. One of June's greatest achievements was her smooth transition from child actor to adult roles. After starring in several teen films, she made a lasting impression as the warm, reliable mother figure in popular TV series like Lassie and Lost in Space. These roles not only brought her fame, but also helped her become a rare symbol of resilience in Hollywood, where many actors struggle to sustain their careers through life's different stages. At 99 years old, June Lockhart still holds a special charm, occasionally appearing in public. She passionately shares vivid stories spanning nearly 90 years in the entertainment industry, from the early days of cinema to the golden age of American television. As one of the last living witnesses of Hollywood's golden era, June not only preserves its memories, but also inspires others through her grace and passion. Gloria Jean, born in 1926, was discovered by Universal, thanks to her natural singing talent and captivating looks, becoming the studio's new hope as a musical star. At age 13, she made her debut in the lead role of The Underpup, 1939, a successful film that led to comparisons with Shirley Temple and Deanna Durbin. With over 20 films before turning 21, mostly musicals like If I Had My Way, 1940, and Never Give a Sucker an Even Break. 1941, Gloria quickly became a familiar face. Universal had high hopes for her, promoting her as the next child star with a long-term contract, marking a promising start during Hollywood's golden era. Gloria Jean passed away in 2018 at the age of 92, leaving behind a life story that was quiet but deeply inspiring. She lived peacefully content with her choices and kept herself away from the obsession with past fame. Although she didn't sustain a long career like some other child stars, Gloria proved that a moment of fame doesn't define a person's entire life. She also left a small but memorable legacy through her musical films, which are now cherished by collectors and classic movie fans. Gloria's life is a reminder that success isn't just about fame, but also about the ability to reinvent oneself and find happiness in simple things. Kevin Corcoran became famous in Disney productions of the 1950s and 60s, such as Spin and Marty Old Yeller the Shaggy Dog and Swiss Family Robinson. With his freckled face and youthful energy, he embodied the ideal American boy of the post-war era. Supported and mentored by Walt Disney himself, Kevin played many roles and became a familiar face. Unlike many child actors, he realized that his future might lie behind the camera. After studying theater at California State University, Kevin transitioned to working as an assistant director and producer on shows like Quantum Leap, Baywatch, and Murder. His behind-the-scenes career was longer and more successful than his acting, especially because his experience as a child actor helped him understand and support young performers. He passed away in 2015 at the age of 66 from colorectal cancer, leaving behind a dual legacy as both a beloved Disney child star and a respected television producer. Jon Provost became famous for his role as Timmy Martin on the TV series Lassie from 1957 to 1964. Thanks to this role, he became one of the most recognizable child stars in American television history. With his blonde hair and innocent look, Jon received thousands of fan letters every week. At age 14, feeling he had outgrown the role of Timmy John, and his family decided to leave Lassie through an amicable agreement, unlike many child stars who left due to conflicts. After leaving the industry, Jon attended college and built a successful career in real estate in Northern California. Today, at 74, Jon occasionally participates in nostalgia events and has written a memoir, Timmy's in the Well, which reflects a positive and humorous attitude toward his time as a child star. He is a prime example of someone who left the spotlight healthily and built a normal, stable life. Bonita Granville, born in 1923, quickly gained attention in the entertainment industry thanks to her emotionally rich and sharp acting skills. At age 13, she received an Oscar nomination for her role as Mary Tilford in These Three, 1936, portraying a young character with complex psychological depth. This role not only showcased Bonita's exceptional talent, but also helped her become one of the most sought-after child stars of the time. Her ability to bring multi-dimensional characters to life laid the foundation for a promising career. By the late 1930s, Bonita Granville became a teenage icon by playing the young detective Nancy Drew in the film series of the same name. With 4 films produced between 1938 and 1939, she portrayed an intelligent, brave, and captivating Nancy Drew, who was beloved by young audiences. This film series not only solidified Bonita's reputation, but also helped her successfully transition from child roles to more dynamic characters suited for her teenage years, an important step in the career of any child star. During the 1940s, Bonita Granville continued acting with supporting roles in well-known films like Now Voyager 1942 and Hitler's Children 1943. Although she no longer held center stage as before, she was still highly regarded for her natural acting style and professionalism. These roles demonstrated Bonita's ability to adapt to different film genres, from romantic drama to wartime propaganda, maintaining a steady presence in the entertainment industry during her transition into adulthood. Bonita Granville passed away in 1988, leaving behind a significant legacy not only in acting, but also in production and business. From an Oscar-nominated child star, she reinvented herself as a successful business leader, becoming a role model for former child stars, seeking new paths beyond the spotlight. Bonita's career is a testament to resilience and adaptability, showing that talent and determination can lead to success in many different fields. Her legacy, from her roles as Nancy Drew to Lassie, continues to inspire audiences and entertainment professionals alike. Martin Stevens, born in 1949 in England, quickly became a standout figure in the film industry, thanks to his exceptional acting talent at a very young age. He made a lasting impression with his role as David in Village of the Damned 1960, a sci-fi horror film where he brilliantly portrayed a child who appeared innocent but had a cold, haunting gaze. His ability to blend childlike innocence with a mysterious, eerie quality made Martin the perfect choice for roles in the horror genre, an area that demands emotional depth even from young actors. Following the success of Village of the Damned, Martin, Stevens continued to impress with his role as Miles in The Innocents 1961, a psychological horror film based on Henry James's novel The Turn of the Screw. Playing a boy who was both charming and mysterious, Martin delivered a captivating performance that held audiences spellbound. His subtle portrayal of the ambiguous line between innocence and evil helped solidify his status as one of the most talented child actors of the 1960s. These films were not only commercially successful, but are also considered classics in the horror genre. After leaving Hollywood, Martin Stevens lived a private life, almost disappearing from the public eye. Information about his personal life is very limited, which only adds to the curiosity about the journey of the former child star. In recent years, Martin has begun to reappear not on screen but in documentaries and interviews about classic horror films, like Village of the Damned and The Innocents. These appearances suggest that he views his acting career as a chapter that has closed, and he seems content with life away from the spotlight, though he hasn't shared much about the years that followed. Johnny Crawford, in the original role of Mark McCain on the TV series The Rifleman, portrayed the quintessential Western son alongside his widowed father, Lucas McCain, played by Chuck Connors. Over the course of the show's 5 seasons, Audiences watched Johnny grow up on screen as his character developed from a 12-year-old boy into a young man approaching adulthood. Beyond acting, Johnny also had a successful music career in the early 1960s, with several singles charting on Billboard, including Cindy's Birthday and Rumors. Johnny was once expected to successfully transition from child actor to mature entertainer. However, his career gradually slowed as he aged and could no longer maintain his familiar, youthful image. He continued working in television and film into the early 1970s, while also pursuing a passion for classical music, creating a balanced artistic life. In 2019, Johnny was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease and passed away in 2021 at the age of 75, leaving behind the legacy of a life harmoniously blending early fame with a deep artistic journey. Jay North is best known for his role as Dennis in Dennis the Menace, 1959-1963, the TV series based on the popular comic strip. With his image as a mischievous boy wearing a striped shirt and overalls, Jay quickly became one of the most recognizable child stars in early 1960s America. However, Jay's personal life was much darker than his innocent on-screen persona. He suffered emotional and psychological abuse from his on-set guardians, who pressured him heavily to maintain Dennis's cheerful image. After leaving the role of Dennis at age 12, Jay's career quickly declined with only a few minor roles afterward, and he eventually left Hollywood to serve in the Navy before becoming a corrections officer. The psychological impact of fame and abuse left lasting scars, causing Jay to struggle for years with depression and anger. Today, at 73, Jay lives a quiet life and occasionally participates in autograph signings and interviews to share his story. He actively advocates for the protection of child actors from exploitation, helping raise awareness about the unique challenges they face. From the multifaceted stories of child stars like Johnny Crawford, Jay North, and Bonita Granville, to other complex and inspiring lives, we see that reality includes not only the spotlight but also challenges growth and sometimes reinvention. These stories remind us of both the power and the price of childhood fame, while showing that with the right support and choices, child stars can build balanced and meaningful lives beyond the limelight. Among your friends, is there anyone who's ever been a fan of child stars like Johnny Crawford, Jay North, or June Lockhart? If yes, type 1. If not, comment 0. Enjoy the video to explore their inspiring and challenging stories, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support the channel.